Hello, everyone. This is sig-aws. It is Friday, January 25th, 2019. I am your facilitator, Justin Santa Barbara. I work at Google. A reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be put on the internet. Please be mindful of that and also respect our code of conduct and be a good person. There is an agenda. I have pasted the link in chat. I will repaste it for anyone joining late. If you do have anything you would like to talk about, please add it to the agenda so we can be sure to get to it. It looks like we don't have that much on there, so we should be okay. If you would like to put your name in the attending list so people can figure out who you are when they read about it afterwards, that would be wonderful. And otherwise, I suggest we dive right into the agenda. Gianluca, is that you, did you put the first item on there?
Yeah, I am.
Awesome, welcome. And do you want to tell us about it?
Thank you. Yeah, I just prepared 3 or 4 slides. I'm gonna share my screen. It's something that I did in my company, and we was figuring out a way to build topologies on AWS cluster. We use Kubernetes and autoscaling group. So I created a small application in Go that uses a sharding informer to watch for new nodes. And when a new node joins, based on the format of the EC2 tags that we pass through from the autoscaler to the EC2, we forward them as a taints or label. So the format looks like this one. An EC2 tags Kubernetes AWS label role equals CI will become a Kubernetes label that looks like this one. Same for taints. So in this way, we can easily create complex topology in our cluster, just adding or removing autoscaling group. So I don't know if this exists in some place as a code or not. So I find it useful, and maybe I'm trying to understand if I can share it in some place or how I can open it to everyone if it looks feasible.
Yeah, that looks
end of my presentation.
Thank you for the presentation. It looks wonderful. Yeah. I was slightly worried when you said it was a weird presentation that it was going to be a really long PowerPoint, but yes, that was the perfect presentation. Just showing everyone what you're talking about. So that's great. Thank you. I know that this has actually come up a couple of times in the past where people have talked about mapping labels onto, EC2 labels automatically onto their nodes. I think the general consensus has been that we don't necessarily want to do that for automatically for every label, and can we do it as a controller, and can we understand the use case? I think what you've done sounds great. I guess if you want to talk about some of the limitations of that approach, because I know of one right off the bat, right? But why don't you tell us about what those are?
Yeah, I mean, what we are using it just for a few weeks, so it's not really, we didn't come up with a big limitation. We are just using toleration and node selector to have a subgroup of nodes, like CI nodes that will take load from our CI, or other front line that will get the public traffic and kind of stuff. So for this, they are working great, but the fact that we have a kind of grammar that if it doesn't match, it doesn't get forwarded. Clean.
Yeah, I mean, is it a problem? The one I was worried about was there's sort of a race, right, between, which is probably fine for the labels, but more for the taints on the node, right? If a node should be tainted and comes up without the taint, well, it will come up without the taint. And if your controller doesn't get in before the node goes ready, which honestly you have a fair bit of time anyway, but there is a race, there is a window there. Like if your controller was down, I don't know if that's an issue. I actually, one of the things, you're using kubeadm, there are other tools which will attach those labels for you when the kubelet comes up. Kubelet has some flags. COPS has it. I don't know if EKS has it. Chris, does? Yeah, it does. Cool. I see it nodding. And that's nice because it solves the race. But my understanding is we're trying to move that out of kubelet anyway, because from a security point of view, nodes shouldn't be defining their own shouldn't have permissions to find their labels and to define their taints. The theory being, if you escaped from a pod or were able to impersonate the kubelet and change your labels, you could steer workloads to yourself. So in general, we're trying to make it that isn't the case, and that would put it into a controller like the one you've done here. I think this would be great. This may be a bigger effort than just AWS. But yeah, so I don't know the full status of this. I think we do need a controller like the one you've done. And it may overlap or tie nicely in with some of the work on kubelet labels. I can reach out to Mike Denise, is probably the person who I know is working on this aspect of security and pulling out or adding labels to nodes in a secure way. And I can see whether what the status is. If it ends up being cloud specific, I think this would be a natural sub project for the SIG to have some small controller, or you can just publish it, in your own repo. But if you wanted to make it official.
Yeah, I mean, I'm jumping in this code, sharing this information because that right now it's it's just 10 lines of code, so there is no really point for me to have a project that just does that. So I was looking for a place where to put that. So if you can figure out if it would be a case, just let me know, and I'm happy to help.
Yeah, I will definitely reach out to Mike. I've talked a lot. I don't know if other people on the call want to talk about whether they have similar use cases or anything like that, or do something similar. How you get around it. Okay.
What I'm seeing these days is using the actual kubelet flags and just doing it. For example, with EKS, you just do it through like our CFN. You can just add that as a param.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
obviously.
You're very quiet, Chris. We sort of struggle.
Sorry, that doesn't support the taints, though.
Okay. You can pass taints through kubelet flag, by the way.
Oh, okay. Never mind. It does then.
Okay. I don't know if other people are going to jump in there or say anything, but yeah, I think let's figure out what's happening with the kubelet, the long-term demise of those kubelet flags, and whether this goes into whatever the replacement is, which will likely be some sort of cloud-aware controller anyway. But honestly, I don't know if there's even a design for what that looks like yet. But this could evolve to be that thing, or we can put this functionality into that thing. The way I would imagine it working is some sort of regex or matching rules that, like, say these ones map in this, right?
Yeah, that's just easy like that.
Cool. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for showing us that. And are you GNARB on GitHub?
Yes, I am.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Micah, I don't know if you're here. You have the next item on the agenda. I don't see you. Chris, do you have context on this? This is about custom endpoints for AWS.
I'm reaching out to him right now, though.
Okay, cool. Well, we can. The next item is also Mike. So we'll come back to that one. I had a quick, or hopefully a quick question, which is one of the things I'm trying to figure out is sort of how people are using COPS and using AWS and using all these tools, and which bits of which pieces that we've built people are actually using. And I don't know if anyone wants to volunteer information about the way that they're authenticating to their cluster. I guess maybe at some stage we should do a survey, but at the moment I just have absolutely no idea how most people are authenticating to their cluster. And I'm aware that some people, I'm sure, use the standard or the admin token for everything. And some people set up service accounts. Some people I suspect use OIDC. Some people I suspect use the AWS IAM authenticator. Dex is out there. There are lots of solutions. So I just didn't know whether anyone wanted to share what they were using or had some idea of what people might be using in the wild. This might be a tricky question for people to answer in public. Are there other solutions I should be putting on that list of a potential survey in future? How about expressing it that way?
don't know. I'm using just the service accounts. So we want to move to the IAM, but I just haven't had the time.
The AWS IAM? Yeah. That's helpful. Thank you. All right. Well, not a ton of additional things. Thank you, Monty, for the data point. Anyway, Micah, I see you have arrived. You have the items 2 and 3 on our agenda, which we have reached in an out of order fashion.
I am sorry, I was a little bit late.
Worries.
So there's a PR out. Just wanted to raise awareness here for everybody for custom endpoint support. And I kind of wanted to just see if you knew, Justin, do we need to get it? With 1.14, they want it kept for everything. It seems like a small enough feature. I don't know that this really requires a KEP. It's in addition to the cloud configuration to just be able to say, I want to use this VPC custom endpoint for AWS services.
Yeah, I was a little confused by the initial PR because it sounded like they were talking about private regions, and I was like, I don't know what a private region is.
Yeah, so I'll give the background here. So basically, like when you in just normal commercial AWS, when you talk to ASG or EC2 or ELB or whatever, you talk to a public endpoint, right? So even if you're in a VPC, when you communicate with an AWS API call, you're going to the public internet. AWS has this private link feature for basically dropping in an endpoint within your VPC. So whenever you talk to AWS service APIs, it doesn't go over the public internet, it's local to your VPC. So that's what this feature really supports. It's intended, like it can work just fine in commercial regions like that everyone's familiar with, but then there's also like as the PR stated, the government regions that AWS operates. So this would help support that they don't have outside internet connectivity. So that's I think the primary reason for this PR, but it also, for anyone who's operating a Kubernetes cluster in AWS, if they want to turn on these custom endpoints, then Kubernetes doesn't have to go over the internet to talk to EC2, ELB, ASG, all these things. So it's I think it's a good PR. There's a few last changes we're working out on it, but yeah, I just didn't know if you thought that warranted a KEP or if we could get that in for 1.14.
In theory, everything needs a KEP. I think it would be. I think we should try to get this into 1.14. Now that you've explained it, it makes a ton more sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the no public IP is the most common one. We can also express it as I don't know if it's still a thing, but like eucalyptus and things like that to offer the AWS API on different endpoints.
I mean, that's totally that would be. I mean, yeah, exactly. That would be the kind of thing it could support. I mean, just selfishly, like if I was developing an AWS service that I needed the cloud provider to talk to, and it wasn't the public facing service that everyone knows with a public endpoint, that would be another reason to use that. So that's not almost anyone's use case but my own, but that would help support that as well.
I'm almost surprised we don't have this already. I thought we had something like this. So yes, I think this would be great to get in. Because we are on this KEP road, we do need a KEP. I believe a KEP would make sure it got into the docs, for example.
Okay. I can write a quick KEP just because it's a small enough feature. I think the deadline.
It's exactly it. It doesn't need to. Yeah, it's the end of the month. It's 29th. Yeah. I think. Yes, you're right.
I'll tag you on that.
It really doesn't need to be more than.
I'll just tag you on it, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be very long at all. I think like just explaining what it is, that like GovCloud doesn't, or whatever they are, GovCloud and Secret Cloud, I think, don't have like public endpoints, and even in any region you can set up a private link endpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's basically it, and we should support that, and we have this mechanism that is for sort of advanced use cases. At some stage, we should try to make that. So we have this, I can't remember what it's called, cloud config, just cloud.config, I can't remember, a cloud config file.
Yep. Yeah, that's what this modifies.
It's sort of it's an INI file, right? And we should try to make that more, maybe promote that to an API type at some point that is more versioned and accessible. But that is where we put sort of the weird features that we don't quite know what to do with at the moment.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I'll write a small cap for that. I'll tag you on it. If you have time, do you have time to look at that? Do you want someone else to review that?
I will have another look at it. I had a look at it. I just didn't understand the reference to private regions or whatever it was. I was very confused by that, but yes, I will have a look at it, and I can have a look at the cap as well.
Yeah, great. All right.
Yeah, shorter is better, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I think it'll be pretty small. It's pretty small, but yeah, self-explanatory feature.
Yeah, I think emphasize that we use this cloud config file for similar things. Like there's something about like putting in like cross-region credentials, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So it's primarily used for the cloud controller, but which only talks to like EC2, ASG, ELBV 1 and 2, KMS, and metadata, I think.
GCR, Moo, yeah, yes, carry on.
The AWS one, right? But the kubelet obviously talks to ECR in
ECR,
multiple.
that's what I was going for.
So that's where it the kubelet might need to be updated, not in this PR, but at some point to support this. Because say you want ECR images in different regions, if you want private endpoints for those different regions, it's not going to be just 4 entries in your config file. It's going to be however many you want. So,
but this will still work for people not using ECR.
Oh, totally. Yep. Yep.
Although if you have no public IPs, I don't know what you're using instead, but
yep,
that's a separate thing. Okay, yeah, I think if you're willing to do a cat, that'd be wonderful, and that would mean it gets into the docs. There is an effort to sort of do small cap or to have caps that track everything, and it is more overhead, but it is probably worth it. And the hope is that the thing that goes into the cap, the description that goes into the cap, ends up being the thing that goes into the docs. I think is the ideal endpoint.
Okay, great. Yep.
Wonderful. That's exciting. And then we have a hopefully uncontentious request from you, Micah. Can I, as a reviewer, I am generally in favor. For people that don't know, wait, you're asking for approval, aren't you? You're on mute. Micah, you're on mute.
Thanks. Sorry. Yeah, I meant approver. I've been a reviewer for 10 months, I think, now on the owner's file.
Yes, so for people that don't know, there is an owner's file for the AWS, well, for all the directories, or almost all the directories in Kubernetes, that determines who has the joy of being responsible for code reviews and for approving those code changes. Micah has been a code reviewer for 10 months. I thought it was longer, but it sounds right, and has contributed code, most notably for NLB or ELBV2. I think you meet the requirements for being an approver, and I think I'm certainly in favor of you being an approver. I don't know if anyone has any feelings otherwise, but otherwise I will flag it in there and say welcome and thank you. But if anyone wants to object, this would be a great time. I can't imagine anyone doing that. But yes, and for anyone that wants to follow in the illustrious footsteps of Micah, you can become a reviewer. The way to do that is the easiest way to do that is basically just to start like looking at PRs and commenting on them and doing basics or doing code review on them, even without the reviewer status. And then we can make you a reviewer, which I actually don't know what the difference is there, but give it a go, see if you like it. And then after demonstrating your track record, we can promote you into an approver, and you will be able to get code into Kubernetes or approve code to be into Kubernetes with the normal provisos of making sure it meets our quality bar. But yeah, that would be great. I don't know I think that's the last thing on our agenda. I don't know if anyone else has anything else they would like to discuss. Going once. Going twice. That's the great thing about Friday meetings. everyone wants to just get it to a close. All right. I wish everyone a very happy weekend, and we will see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.